If you're watching this episode on the 24th of June 2025, then guess what? It's been exactly 30 years since our Springboks won the Rugby World Cup for the first time. It's one of those moments where you just know where you were that day. And so, in this episode, I am going to share with you where I was and what I was doing. Now, yes, it's exactly 3 decades ago, and you might think the memory might have faded a little bit, but I think it's just one of those occasions where it feels like it was yesterday. So, of course, I woke up that morning super excited. The 7 days between our semi-final win over France and this final felt like a lifetime. We had overcome the French in atrocious conditions in our semi-final in Durban. New Zealand, by contrast, steamrolled England in Cape Town. Some might say that was literally what Jonah Lomu did to my cat. Many South Africans, myself included, were not sure what was going to happen. Naturally, we wanted our Boks to win, but we have eyes. We all saw what Lomu did to the English. And previously in the pool stage against Ireland and Wales, as well as the quarterfinal against Scotland. Now, Jonah didn't actually score in all those matches, but he was causing havoc. The All Blacks had quite an interesting tactic in place to make full use of their wrecking ball wing. The other backline players would try to draw in the defender and offload to the next teammate as late as possible. So typically, going from right to left, you had Graham Basher passing to Andrew Mertens, to Walter Little, to Frank Bunce, and then finally to Lomu. The idea was that by the time Lomu received the ball, he would, 1, hopefully be in some space, but perhaps more importantly, 2, he would only have 1 defender to beat. And by the time he did that, it might be too late for the other defenders to catch up. Think of that try against England, the one where he ran over my cat. He was in space, which was exactly what they wanted. The only defense was my cat, who was at fullback, so there was massive space for Lomu to work with. And then you had Will Carling, their captain, who was trying to cover, and he came across from the outside centre position, and the best he could do was get an ankle tap on Lomu, which, to Carling's credit, nearly stopped the big man, who then promptly just literally ran over Cat to go and score that try. So when it works, those defenders are already on the ground, having committed to the likes of Little, Bunce and so forth, unless you're Carling, who can quickly recover and almost cover Lomu. Now, yes, if you were Laurie Mains, let's be honest, why wouldn't you do that? The problem is that actually made the Kiwis one-trick ponies. And I think that is one of the reasons why our coach, Kitch Christie, watched that game against the Poms at Newlands. It was obviously the semi-final, and Kitch turned to his players and said, "We'll beat them." Now, on the day itself, I recall watching the match with my parents, my sister, and I also invited 2 of my friends to come over. We did not paint our faces, though. Why not? Because we painted our faces the week before. And removing the paint was actually an arduous process. Not to mention, there are very few 11-year-old boys who are overly enthusiastic about applying aqueous cream to their faces in the aftermath of such an activity, which my mom insisted I did afterwards. We sat down, and after the national anthems, it was time for the Haka. A memorable Haka. They advanced upon our boys. The Bokke were positioned on the halfway line, and as the Kiwis came closer, Cobus Visser stepped forward to get right up into Lomu's face. What a moment. And I think it's such a shame that World Rugby has mandated teams to stand 20 meters away from the New Zealanders now while they do their Haka. The reason? They want space for the television cameras to capture the full majesty of the Haka performance. I think it's a load of bull. Wouldn't teams or players like Cobus Visser, getting right up in their faces, make for even greater theatre? And to be clear, not every team or every player is going to do that. Teams will decide on how to face the Haka in different manners. Some have opted not to face it and turn their backs on the men from the land of the long white cloud. Others have tried to stand in various formations, and so on and so forth. I just think World Rugby is missing out on some really great theatre with this. Quite frankly, stupid regulation. So the match kicked off, and ironically, as much as I told you at the start of the episode that I remember it like it was yesterday, there is very little of the match itself I recall. But do not fret, dear viewer. You see, I will never make an episode for you about a topic I know little or nothing about. I have watched that match back several times over the years. Now, having done that, there are a few things I've noticed. And I think you do notice more when you watch a match with the emotions removed. And let's be clear, the 24th of June 1995 was a highly emotional occasion. The nerves, the stress, the anxiety of it all made it very difficult to remember specific moments or details, I would say. Well, guys, New Zealand were able to breach our defences just twice in the entire match. And by that I mean slipping through a first-time tackle. That was it, just twice. Except for that, they never ever truly threatened us. Our defence was rock solid. And by the way, those two slipping past or through first-time tackle events, both of them occurred in the first 20 minutes of the match. That's it. Never again. Lomu was never allowed to do to us what he did to England. We smothered them. The Springboks also scored a try. We mauled the All Blacks over their own try line, and Hannes Strydom and or Ruben Creer, depending on who you believe, scored. However, referee Ed Morrison ruled the ball was held up. Had that been awarded, we would probably not have needed extra time. And the fact that the match did go to extra time was something of a travesty for me, because in my opinion, we were easily the better side on the day. Not in the sense that we should have won by 20 points, but in the sense that we did enough to finish the job inside 80 minutes. And quite frankly, the score at full time was 9-9. Throw in that try for us. If the final score had been 16-9 in our favour, I feel that that would have been a fair reflection. Having said all of that, because I'm jumping ahead here, we were leading 9-3 at half-time and the New Zealanders fought back to make it 9-9. And Andrew Mertens actually missed a reasonably easy drop goal attempt near the end. They could actually have been leading 12-9 with not many minutes left on the clock. And that's important, I think, because maybe the Springboks themselves were just ever so slightly playing within themselves. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is very typical of a team playing in a final, of course. And we're talking about high-pressure knockout rugby here. But I think if the boys backed themselves just a little bit more, they could have finished it off in the 80 minutes with or without Ed Morrison. But that's not a criticism, not at all. And so we headed to extra time. Oh, the stress of it all. We were in the second half of extra time with the scores locked at 12-12. With us about to scrum just outside their 22, Captain Francois Pienaar had called a backline move, but Joel Stransky overruled the skipper. Stransky had spotted the Kiwi setting up to defend the move that Pienaar called. They had clearly studied us and knew what we planned to do. Next thing you know, we scrum. Joost van der Westhuizen passes to Joel, who slots the sweetest drop kick of his entire career, and the ball sails over the posts. 15-12 to South Africa. And little old me started crying. Yes, there were still about 7 minutes left to play, but I couldn't help myself. I just broke down. I can remember then sitting on my father's lap and him comforting me. Now, let me just say one other thing. In spite of saying how much we dominated in the 80-minute period, and look, domination is a relative term here, but we were the better side over the 80 minutes, and I believe we should have and could have got the job done in regular time. But if we had done that, we as a nation would have been robbed of that beautiful Joel Stransky moment. So when you think of it in that manner, then so what? So be it. And sure enough, a few minutes later, Morrison blew the final whistle and we were the world champions for the first time. Only the second team to have won the Rugby World Cup at the first attempt after the All Blacks in 1987. And realistically, no one else is going to achieve that. Now, in the aftermath, we discovered that the New Zealanders complained of having been food poisoned by a mysterious waitress named Susie. Let's address that, shall we? Laurie Mains, the New Zealand coach, is on the record as having admitted that his players were indeed food poisoned at their hotel. But not all of them. Granted many, but not all. And this occurred earlier in the week. The word is that by the Thursday, everybody had recovered. So while I am willing to concede they were indeed food poisoned and disrupted their preparations, I cannot accept that we beat them because they were food poisoned. I have been food poisoned myself. And let me tell you, I couldn't move. It only lasts roughly 24 hours, but for that entire period, I was bedridden. It is insane to think that a food poisoned person can play a rugby match in said state. Further to that, had Mertens slotted that drop goal in regular time near the end, they would have been leading 12-9. And who knows what might have happened then? They don't talk about that, do they? No, they carry on about Susie. But they were perfectly fit and healthy on the day and missed a chance to take a lead, a late lead. So whose fault is that? Just like the 2023 Rugby World Cup final, we beat 14 men by 1 point, goes the accusation. But perhaps if Richie Mo'unga or Geordie Barrett slotted their kicks, they might have been in the lead in those closing stages. And again, who knows what might have happened. But as always, guys, no accountability from them. They don't do accountability, only excuses. Nevertheless, 24 June 1995 remains a special day. And it came roughly 3 weeks before my birthday too. So I'm claiming that one as an early birthday present. And look what my parents got me as a birthday present. This beautiful book detailing the 1995 Rugby World Cup. I also received a Ruggles plush toy. You might remember Ruggles being the tournament's giraffe mascot. I still have the book, but I've long since lost the toy. So how do you remember that great day? Share your story with me in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, why not help me out with a super thanks? That's the heart button with the $ inside of it. You'll be able to make a highlighted comment. I'll hit the love button on your comment, and I promise to reply too. You'll also have the opportunity to make a small donation to my channel. It's whatever you want it to be. It can be 10 Rand or 10,000 Rand. The reason I'm asking for your help is because I would love to do this full time. I would also love to go to Australia in 2027 and cover the Rugby World Cup for you from down under with daily coverage. But I'll need your help to make it happen. Whatever you are willing to contribute, I'll be very, very grateful. And if you used to work at Eskom and you got a lack of payout, then I'm counting on you to do the right thing. If you're not yet ready to support me in that manner, you can also just spear tackle the like button, and you can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And while we're on this topic, may I recommend a video I did where I did a full deep dive into how we won that 1995 Rugby World Cup, including commentary from some of our heroes that were actually there, talking about the opening match win over Australia, the pool stage wins over Romania and Canada, as well as the knockout games against Western Samoa and France, and obviously the final two. It's on your screen over here. And remember I told you how Kitch said we can beat them even though Lomu had just run over Cat? Well, Yapi Mulder told me that story, and here's the full interview with Yapi over here. And I'll see you next time.